Hi Tanglers, I'm Annie and I'd like to welcome you to Colorado today to tangle with me on this glorious fall day. Last time we honored autumn with a leaf shape and I'm going to continue to do that today. As you can see, the leaves are so inspiring here and I just had to share some of our beautiful aspen gold and orange colors with you. So today I'd like to show you a tangle that's very organic, very beautiful, and very leaf-like. I don't know the name of it and I don't know who stepped it out, so I'm just going to show you how I do this. I saw it somewhere and I copied it, and unfortunately there was no information about the person who did step it out. So if you can find the person who stepped this tangle out, please let me know. You can just email me at botangle@outlook.com or go on my Facebook page or call me. I always like to give credit where credit is due, but I just don't know. And I love this tangle and I want to share it with you because I think you will like it as well. It's part of my my fall leaf series, and since this is very leaf-like, I'm just going to call it fancy foliage. And here's an example of it in my polygon with the hummingbird that I call Hummer, or Kolibri for German. But look how pretty it is to work in and around with all different other tangles. So I really think you're going to like it. We're going to do this shape on a 3Z tile, but in white today, so you can really see the shading, and then you can do with it what you will. You can do it on color, you can do it on a regular Zen-tangle tile. I am using an 01 Micron pen and just a soft pencil. Today I have my F. Stettler. I always have my kneaded eraser in case I need to lift. And I think that's just about it. So this is a 3Z tile from Zen-tangle. And I'm going to put a border around it. I just think it makes it look finished. Like a little mat. The shape I'm going for is to do, I started out with just 3 of these fancy foliages, and then I just kept adding more. So we'll see how I do today. You always draw a little differently every time you do this, and maybe these will be bigger, I don't know. So I'm going to just start right in. I'm going to start not quite at the bottom, but pretty close to the bottom line here. And I always do my muka shapes, these tendrils, these almost fescue-like shapes, starting from the bottom. I see where I'm going and I feel like I have more control. It was pretty wonky, but we can add some weighted line there, and also here. So there's the first step, and then I always like to give this a little weight on this and that, and then that way we can just kind of beef this up. So it's more than just a fescue. It's almost like a 3D fescue. You can save out the highlights, or you can go back in with a jelly roll. A nice thing about beefing this up, you can kind of correct your line. Then comes the next step, which is very similar to so many of the tangles we do, very much like banana leaf. So we're going to make almost a heart shape here. I am going up a little bit above the spiral head. And then we're going to do that a couple of times. And you can vary that. I pinched in close to the bottom here, but like on here I didn't. So that's up to you, however you feel. And then this next step, you can curl your flux leaf in, or you can make it more kind of just straight, fill in the space. And then I like to add another flux leaf on the side. Sometimes I actually also add it on both sides, but we'll see. how this pans out. So this is going to be my first one. This is the fancy foliage. Oh, but I do want to wait a little bit more here. And then a little bit down here, which doesn't matter so much when they're pinched together, but when they're not, this weighted line is very important. Gives it some ground. Now I'm going to turn my tile and go from here and fill out that space. Take your time. Notice that I'm using a flicking motion here so that my highlight looks like it's kind of shimmering. Like this. And then I'm going to do one more over here. This time, instead of, I guess I could keep that motion going. Yeah, I think I am going to keep that same directional motion going. And then maybe I can do one here, the opposite. So, let's see. So there are the three basic ones, and now I can kind of fill in and around. I think there's room for another one here. It would be smaller, and I'm going to go in the opposite direction. So it's going to kind of come off the back, like our fescues often do. Going outside of my border, but that doesn't matter, right? Our little flux leaves, they're always so decorative. See how pretty that looks. I could probably even maybe fit one more in going this way, and then we'll have some of that beautiful drawing behind. So I can't really get it all in. We'll pretend like we know where all those other lines would be. So one would be coming down here, forming that kind of heart shape in there. And then we would do a flux up here. And let's just do, instead of the flux this way, let's fill out this space with another flux like this. That's pretty. And you could even put some pearls or perfs or gemstones around in there. But I want to show you now how I would shade this. I am going to weight this a little bit, this one in the middle. I think this would look also very pretty with a aura line all the way around. Something for you to try. What I like to do is put a bead of graphite along each of these scallops, so they sort of like the same here. One on the midrib. Oh, I do need my blending stump, which you always know that we need. Just trying this out first, and then I always do like to add a little bit of shading on the midrib in here for whatever reason. You don't have to. I know a lot of people just leave that, but it kind of makes it look like it's furling up. And then I would put a little graphite around this. To really make that look three-dimensional. So there would be that one suggested shading. I don't like how this highlight is just sticking too much out. Incorporate that a little more on the side. There's one, and then let's do that again. So go down here. A little bit of a drop shadow here. Just gives it some more dimension. Notice I'm just using what's on my tortillion now. And I'm just going to accent that coral. Of course, these are just shading suggestions. Since this is Zen-tangle and it's like a made-up thing, this is just the way I think it looks nice to shade, but if you think of something better, go for it. This is not a real botanical. Well, we have to pay attention to that. So now we can do a little bit of polishing. This little stem in here is looking pretty thin, so I'm going to Add some light there. And let's do a few other fescues just to kind of mimic. Who doesn't love fescues? Raise your hand. So these are like the tiny ones of the ones that we just did, so that we can fill out some of this space. And in between here. I don't put a whole lot of thought into these. I just try to loosen things up. This one can be a little renegade crossing the border. And then you could also do some perfs. They always add that extra little decorative touch. Very organic too, like little stones or sand. Make sure to fill in those little interstices, those little kind of triangular areas that form. And we can do like an any oaken kind of frame. And there we have our fancy foliage. Here's some samples that I wanted to show you. Here's where I used it actually almost kind of like a leaf. So I made like a branch and then just went on either side of the branch with the pattern in a typical daily tangle. This is another one I did that I shaded and did my grisaille, and then I painted over with watercolor and brought out some highlights with white colored pencil. I think that looks really pretty when it's just all kind of jumbled here and there, almost like a paisley pattern. So there is our tangle for the day. Have fun. That's it for today's tangle. Thanks for joining me. If you like these lunchtime tutorials, please give them a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also invite you to check out my website for classes that I have scheduled or to purchase my tangle tags for your favorite step outs. That's botangle.net. I'm leaving you with some other links too. Zentangle.com, where you can learn more about the Zentangle method from its founders, Rick Roberts and Maria Thomas. You can also visit their store there for a multitude of Zentangle paper tiles, tools, books, and kits. Tanglepatterns.com is that site I talk about where you can explore hundreds of tangle patterns, read about them, and get the step out, which is basically the deconstruction of the pattern. And finally, if you'd like to share your beautiful results with me and my student community, please join Annie's Botangle Alumni Facebook page. We're a private group where we inspire each other with our work and offer tips and useful information about art and Zentangle.